Super excited and you will be inspired after this panel. My name is Azadeh Khojandi and I'm engineering manager at Microsoft in the organization called Commercial Software Engineering. I'm leading a team of talented engineers and the work that we do is code with. So we work with different organizations to solve the hardest problems that they have and to enable them to, accelerate using Azure and, the new technologies and emerging technologies. I think enough from me, and I would like to start with panelists. So first, I was wondering that if the panelists are comfortable to turn on the cameras so when they answer the questions, people can see their faces. That's very good. So we start with Mandy. So Mandy, do you mind if you, in your own words, explain who you are, what are you passionate about, where are you at, and tell us more about yourself.
Sure, thanks. So my name is Mandy Michael. I am currently the dev manager at Seven West Media in Western Australia. So Seven West Media is a news organisation, Channel 7, and over on the West Coast over here, we have a number of newspapers and online websites for the newspapers. As I said, I'm the dev manager, so I manage a team of developers over here. I'm also a front-end developer, so I do a lot of experimenting and research in my own time into various front-end technologies. And I am a Microsoft regional director, which has been super fun, which I came through because I run a meetup group over here in Perth for front-end developers that I've been doing for about 5 years now. So yeah, I think that's probably a good rundown of me. If that's okay, I'll hand over.
Oh, thanks, Mandy. As just a quick reminder that we are going to record this meeting, so hopefully everyone feels comfortable with that. Okay, so next one, Bronwen. Do you mind if you introduce yourself to the audience?
Thanks. So my name's Bronwen Zande. The best way to describe me, I think, is I'm a daughter of Patrick and Rhonda, a sister, an aunt, a girlfriend, a mentor, a conference organizer, a wildlife carer, a business owner, and a friend. What's obvious is that I'm a middle-aged white female living in a Western world, which has allowed me much privilege. My journey, I guess, I'm a developer at heart. I first fell in love with computers when my cousin first got one and had one of those learn to code books where you type it out. I had an amazing IPT teacher in senior who encouraged us. I had my first paid gig when I was in grade 12 writing some code for someone. I did a traditional IT degree at university. I did my first IT job paid by the end of first year of uni part-time. I've worked for companies doing consulting, project builds, worked on products, and then I moved on and did my own thing.
That's very good, Bronwen. And seriously, I'm very impressed with your background and your lighting is very professional.
Oh, it's like a $30 Amazon light. So.
That's very good. And then last but not least, I would like to hear more about Norman. So Norman, would you mind you introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation for me to joining here. Thank you everyone to joining to this panel. My name is Norman. I am a Microsoft RD based in Jakarta, Indonesia. I am also CTO of Dana Indonesia. It's a new wallet. It's a mobile and digital payment platform. Currently, we serve almost 50 million users. We passed 45 million users last quarter, and we're just very close to 50 million. Hopefully, before we close the year, we reach that 50 million users mark. And I'm currently leading a team of 400 software engineers. And total experience, 20 years in software engineering, 8 years of those were in Microsoft. I co-founded 2 tech startups. One is it's a bootstrap, the other one is a venture back. So yeah, I got the experience across, like big company like Microsoft, small bootstrap startup with 5 developers, and then a venture back startup with about 150-ish developers, and then now about a 400 team of software engineers. So yeah, that's what I do. Outside work, I'm a passionate CrossFitter, and I also do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So we can also discuss about that if you want.
Wow, that's very impressive. Thanks, Norman, and fingers crossed for reaching to 50 million users is very impressive. And Mandy, I would like to, you have a very interesting, career path. So for the engineers and developers that they are, on this meeting. So because you started from front-end engineering and you're passionate about front-end work, and then, you become a manager, which is very impressive. And it's a very unlikely path, if I want to be honest with you, in terms of, what you see the trends in the market. I would like to hear, from you that what did you do to get here and how did you find your passion from front-end engineering to management? And, if you have any advice for audience.
Sure. It's a good question. Actually, before I was a developer, I was a project manager for like digital projects. And the way that I came into that was that I studied, it was called multimedia at the time. That's how long ago I was at uni. And now it's like something completely different. But so I studied programming and web development and that kind of thing, and then fell into project management. And it was the project management that eventually had me end up being a manager. When I got a bit bored of doing project management, so I wanted to do development, and I did that for a while. But because I'd been a project manager for like 7 years before I switched roles, I was good at estimating, I was good at managing projects, I was good at delivering projects and all of those kinds of things, because it was something that I had done as a project manager. So I was naturally drifting towards management positions because I just sort of did it as I was going, because that's what I was used to doing as a project manager. So I kind of moved my development skills, I added on to my development skills with the project management skills that I had, and that really assisted me into moving into a manager role. And I tend to switch between manager and developer whenever I change jobs, because I like to maintain my technical skills as well. So my role's kind of been a little bit like, I'm going to do this, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do this over here, and then I'll do this. And I've managed to balance my skills along the way as a result of that. So I think if anybody wants to move into roles like that, it's important to utilize the skills that you have from not just development, but also things like project management and, managing a community or running a conference are both things that I've done as well. So I'm able to build up my non-technical skills in order to do a management role, which is super important, not just for managers, but for developers as well, in my opinion. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but that was kind of how I ended up where I am at the moment.
Actually, that's very reflects that, what made you successful. So it made you successful because you have a knowledge of different broad aspects of different roles, and then that helps you to become a manager. So for those that want to become a manager here in this meeting, maybe try this option in terms of, getting exposure, try to do multiple roles, and that, exceeds your to become successful as a manager. Thanks so much, Mandy, for sharing. And then I would like to look at Bronwen. And Bronwen, you had a very impressive entrepreneurial mind. You started thinking about business, doing gigs even when you were still at high school and university. So that's very impressive. And I would like to hear more about, your career path. What made you think about, starting a company, and what was the reasons, or what get you going, and if you have any advice for the audience if they want to follow your path.
Yeah, so I guess I tried a bunch of different permanent roles, and there'd be something that I'd held up my side of the bargain, and there was always sometimes when they didn't hold up to theirs in terms of bonuses or what I was supposed to do next. So I decided that it was time to take that into my own hands. One of my biggest problems is I get bored easily. So the good thing about doing my own thing is I can kind of choose what I want to concentrate on and what sort of projects I want to do, and it's up to me to decide what to do and like make them work and earn money. In terms of starting your own company, I mean, that's super easy, I guess. Like it costs about $1,000, and then there's a few fees every year. Obvious downsides are things like having to chase invoices and purchase orders, and I wish I'd done more accounting at university now. But yeah, I like to learn. So having your own company, you learn lots of things all the time.
That's very good. It's very impressive, Bronwen. And I'm looking at Norman. So you had 3 different type of startups, and this startup is actually massive. You have 400 engineers reporting to you. So what did you do that get you here, that you are now? And what advice that you have for the audience?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I studied physics and then I studied mathematics and computer science. So that's kind of like background, very geeky. It's just different. And after that, I work as software engineers in several different companies, working on interesting projects. As an example, the Indonesia presidential and legislative election systems, stuff like that. And then I end up joining Microsoft and work for Microsoft. I think the organization that I was working on in Microsoft is now called CSE, where you are at now. And after that, I was approached by a friend. He's an Australian living in Indonesia. He studied in Australia, and he has this business idea about building a B2B e-commerce startup. And he's a business person. He needs someone, a tech person, that can help him to become co-founder and build this startup. So, like back then I was working in Microsoft, very comfortable job. It's all good. It was okay. But then, I was thinking like, this is a chance for me to do something, to build something where I actually found this company and build it from scratch. Even if I fail, I can always fall back to corporate life, but it's just something I really have to do. So I quit Microsoft and then jump into this newborn startup. And we started with just like 4 or 5 developers, and then we built, we drive tractions, we got customers and so forth. We do fundraising, several fundraising rounds, and I remember it. After a couple of years, we were about 100 plus engineers working on the startup. So I think it just it just happened that way. And then after the last funding round, I think I want to do something else. So I separate ways with the startup that I co-founded, and then I joined this other startup. It's Dana Indonesia. It's a payment platform. So they were also in the need of CTO back then. So I joined them, worked with them, built the systems, built the apps, helped drive the traction, get more customers, get more merchants, integrate with banks, and all of a sudden we just passed 45 million users. And hopefully we can really drive more tractions so that we can really, like reach and tap the whole 180 millions of Indonesians that are connected to the internet, and eventually the whole 270 millions Indonesians in the future. So so I think the one thing that really became the turning point, or like the change part of my life, is when I quit Microsoft and joined this small startup without a known future. It's kind of like betting, gambling, but I just thought I had to do it. And then I think it was a good choice back then. So I think I'm okay with where I am now.
So I just want to make sure that the Microsoft engineers that are in the call, they cover their ears. But now that's very impressive, and that's a very good, brave choice and brave move. And if someone we also have a few engineers in our teams that they left Microsoft CSE to follow their careers in the startup world. And I think it reflects the passion and reflects that what you really want in your career. Thanks, Norman, for sharing. Mandy, I'm looking at you and I want to hear what was your biggest mistake or most important lesson that helped you to shape your career?
My biggest mistake and my most important lesson are the same thing. When I first became a front-end developer in, I guess, my first official sense. So I built websites when I was 13 for like Backstreet Boy fan sites and stuff, so I don't really count those. But when I got my first job building websites as a developer, I was in a team, and originally it was front-end, back-end devs and design. We were all one team. And a new head of the department came in and he decided to split design out. And at the time I was doing design and front end and a little bit of back end development. And the person who came in decided that I had to pick one. I was only allowed to do one. I couldn't do them all. I couldn't work through them all. And at the time I knew that felt wrong. But I was like, oh, well, it's my boss. I guess I'll have to pick one. So I picked front-end dev, but I feel like what I learned from that is never let somebody tell you what you should do. So I should have continued doing that, or I should have fought for it more so that I could do and develop in multiple areas at once. And I think had I done that, my career would have progressed slightly faster than maybe it has. But I've learned now that if something feels wrong to me, like there's something that I really want to do, like I really want to learn X technology or learn this skill or that skill, then I just do it now. If I can't get the support from the company that I'm working from, I'll either leave or I'll do it in my own time, because I think people make the best decisions that they can at the time, right? But only you kind of know what's right for you and the things that you want to learn and develop in, and you shouldn't let another person kind of tell you what is the right path for you or what is the right way to do something. So that's probably my biggest mistake, but my biggest lesson, and I've sort of lived by that ever since. If I want to do something, I just do it now, even if somebody says it's wrong, because it's okay for me to think that they're wrong and I can take a risk or I can try something. So I think that would be mine.
That was a very big learning, and it's very good learning. And thanks for sharing, Mandy. And I'm looking at Norman at this stage because I think that Norman and Mandy, they have similar experience, so it's good to have it in a same order. So, what was your biggest mistake or most important lesson that you've learned, Norman?
Okay. Yeah. I think one thing that I learned that I can share to technical people, to engineers, to devs, is that sometimes we glorify too much our technical capabilities, and we really have that technical ego. I am a tech person. I'm so cool. I'm so smart. But actually, you also need to understand that you are part of, like bigger team. There is actually business that the company is trying to run, and I learned it that when I was part of the C-level of this startup, in the beginning, I was always thinking that I'm the lead of the tech. I represent the tech people in the board, in the C-level. But then I realized that actually that is a wrong mindset, because when you are in that group, you are actually just like a cell in a bigger brain of that C-level group. So I came late to that realization. That is why I think our startup could have reached faster traction if I didn't really have that mindset back then. And it's also key, especially if you are a tech leader in that company, you sometimes may want to see that maybe you're not really a tech person. Actually, you are a business person in charge of tech. So, that realization, that's kind of like stripping my technical ego, but it is what it is. And, to have the understanding how your technology can impact the business, how the technology products, everything that you produce can really drive the business tractions, how you should have a understanding of the North Star metrics of that company, how you derive from there to have the more technical engineering metrics for you to do health check and drive your tech team. is something that is very key to bring your company or your startup to the next level. For me, I think the biggest mistake is that I really had that big technical ego and came late to the realization that, yeah, it's actually I need to make alignments with the business more. So, yeah.
That was a big learning, and it's a very good learning. Thanks for sharing, Norman. And Bronwyn, what would be your answer? What was your biggest mistake or most important lessons that has helped you to shape your career?
Yeah, I think they all chain together a bit. So yeah, I think firstly to build a funds buffer, because being privileged enough to have a bit of financial of independence gives you a massive amount of power and allows you to say yes to new opportunities, and to work out how to do those afterwards. Because some people see things in you that you haven't seen, and you don't know your own potential until you give it a go. And that helps you choose what to do with your own career, and only you know what makes you happy, and no one else can tell you that it's right or wrong, and then you have to do what's right for you. But I guess completely dev oriented, I would say the biggest lesson was not judging other people's code and projects, because you didn't walk in their shoes. You don't know what constraints, rules, pressures, etc. that team was under at the time. So when you inherit their code, you don't know what they went through to get to where they were.
That was very fair, I think, assumption. I can see Mandy is showing the thumbs up. I think that was very good learning, and also very good sharing and observation, Bronwyn. Thanks for sharing that, and I can see a smile on Mandy's face. So Mandy, I want to ask you another question. It's related to the front-end engineers, because I know that few people on this path in this room are front-end engineer, and they would like to hear more about your front-end engineering journey, the way that you moved from front-end to do the management positions. So I know that you mentioned quickly around product management that you have before, but a little bit more expansion around your journey would be really helpful.
Sure. I mean, if I put the sort of management-y, product-y stuff aside, from a front-end perspective, like I sort of mentioned before, I started building websites because I was a massive Backstreet Boy fan, and 13-year-old me wanted to make fan sites. So that's kind of how I started. But what I really liked about it was being able to create something. I've always really loved art and all of those kinds of things. So it just kind of naturally happened, because I used to create my art digitally as part of when I was a teenager. But the way that I sort of built up my skills was by joining communities, and well, I guess I started a community because there wasn't one here, and being around people with similar interests to me in the front end space meant that we could share ideas and develop those things, those ideas, and sort of, I guess, upskill a lot quicker rather than sort of learning it in isolation on my own. That led me to things like the Twitter community, where I met a bunch of really great people that allowed me to learn from them as well. With, you know, there's like heaps more resources out there than there was when I started, but, you know, places like CSS Tricks and all of those things, online newsletters and everything is where I kind of upskilled from. And, you know, that kind of, I guess, being a part and connected to different people that liked the things that I liked is pretty much how I got to where I am. Like, everything I've done has just been a gradual progression of my skills through sharing and learning with other people at the same time. We ran a conference over here and I got to meet some really great people, and I guess I expanded the connections that I have with really amazing people around the world. And then I started doing public speaking as well, which let me do that even more. So for me, the way that my journey has progressed has really been based around the people that I get to know in Perth and in Australia, and then globally as well, through a number of different things like writing articles, sharing my research at conferences, and just generally chatting with people on Slack groups in various communities. So I think for me, although I'm a front-end developer, that journey is how I've gotten there. It's kind of something that can be applied to anything that you do. I have a strong belief that sharing with others and learning with others is a lot more effective than doing it on your own. You get a lot more diverse opinions and ideas, and you kind of don't get stuck in a bubble if you can like spread your wings a little bit and meet a bunch of different people. So I guess that's kind of how I progressed, by just learning, reading, sharing, and repeat with a whole bunch of different people. That's pretty much how I got here. I'd recommend it. It's been fun, and you make a lot of friends along the way.
That's a very good approach, Mandy, and thanks for sharing. That's very inspiring that you built a community. So you didn't say, okay, there is no one around me and let's forget it. You just take the initiative and you built it. And you not only help yourself, but also you help another engineers and other front-end engineers that they were in the same region, benefit the same content, the same conferences. It's very inspiring. Now I'm looking at you, Bronwyn, so I would like to hear, how can you set yourself apart from other developers and other entrepreneurs, what helped you to get you where you are at, and, how you do it?
I guess, firstly, I'm quite curious. I'm definitely a lifelong learner. As I mentioned, I get bored, so I like to learn new things. And I always look for a learning opportunity in whatever I'm doing. Even if like the project I'm on, technically it may not be interesting, there may be a good opportunity to like practice giving feedback, etc., etc. I pretty much will try anything once. I'm the type of person that's like boots on the ground and likes to get my hands dirty. And I tend to like come always armed with my facts. And I'm not afraid to say I don't know something. But I'll always like tell them that I'm happy to find out. I think one of the best experiences I had was that really taught me a lot. Andrew Coates from Microsoft, he ran a program called Evangelize, almost 10 years ago, where they picked out a few of us and gave us some presentation training. And that was really amazing. Like it taught us to, because my presentation style can be quite different to a lot of other people. And it taught me that I wasn't doing it wrong. It's just that everyone else, like I may not have found the right conferences, and then to embrace that I'm different. And then I guess through the MVP program, I met some amazing MVPs in our Emerging Experiences group. It's a super diverse group of people all over the world, and we still stay in contact, even though a lot of us aren't MVPs anymore. And we can chat about everything and anything in a safe manner, and we know that we'll be respected and that you have someone to go to ask for advice.
That's very good. And, I know Coates as well. He's a very good colleague of us, and he's still, helping and mentoring engineers. He's still doing it. And I was very glad. I will make sure that he knows about, the program that he ran 10 years ago affected, the work that you're doing now. That's very good. So Norman, I'm looking at you. So how can you set yourself apart from the other developers? And then also I would like to hear about what's the difference in your opinion between becoming a people manager and individual contributor.
Okay, thank you. So I think what singled me out from the crowd of the other devs is that my attitude towards problem is that unlike everyone, maybe they try to avoid or they don't like problems. I actually got excited by problems. With that mindset, with that attitude, it drives me and helps me to become the man I am today. So basically, I see problems are opportunities for us to come up with solution to solve that problems. So problems is kind of like the precursor of innovation. Problems are indicator that something will get better if we fix that. So I always have that drive, to see if there are things that are wrong or problematic and try to come up with something to solve that problem. Hence, once we have that solution, we will be better compared to before we realized there was a problem. Or if there are good things that are coming to an end, it's a problem, I also like to see how we can come up with a solution so that that good thing will not come to an end. And if there are, if things are doing well, if everything is good, there is no problems, I like to shake things up and create the problems myself. So what does it mean is that, I give an example. For example, the performance of your app when your button is clicked and the response time is like 6 seconds, 7 seconds, 6.5, 5.5, and so forth. So you set up a target that the response time should be 5 seconds, and then you work, you come up with solution, you fix the algorithm, data structure, the page size, using of different frameworks and libraries and so forth, and you could achieve that. So your page size is 4.9 seconds, 4.8 seconds, 4.3 seconds. It's all good. If all the time everything is below 5 seconds, everything is good. So what we want to do is we want to shake things up. We want to create problems. Problems by definition is if reality is not the same as expectation. If there is a gap, then there is a problem, and you want to come up with a solution to reduce the gap. So yeah, let's introduce a new target, making it 3 seconds. So all of a sudden, all the 4.3, 4.5, 4.7s that were just awesome, look good, everything is okay. All of a sudden, all those are problematic, and you have to work on something to fix and improve to hit the new target of 3 seconds. So, that drives the attitude towards problems, the excitement, to embrace problems and actually come up with solution. I think that kind of thing that really helps me to be singled out from the crowd of the other devs. And there are two ladders that devs can grow. In companies where they have that clear separations, there are paths for devs to come up to become dev lead, an engineering manager, a VP of engineering, and so forth. So it's more like a pyramid of organization where you become people manager. And there is another ladder of individual contributor where you may not necessarily leading a team of people, but you're just getting more competent, become deeper and stronger in your technical capabilities. So you, let's say, become a senior dev, and then an architect, a principal engineer, and so forth. So there are these two different ladders. And yeah, as a dev, you may want to, really look at yourself and decides which ladder you want to go. And because, not everyone is comfortable or capable to become people manager. So they may want to stick to become an individual contributor, is just getting stronger in their particular field. And some people, have that interest and also capabilities to lead team of people and become people manager.
Oh, that's very good. And what I hear from you, Norman, the continuous improvement is the key for you. You enjoy of the continuous improvement and through the process. That's very good. Thanks for sharing. And I think that the last question is from Bronwen. Or did I ask you, Bronwen? I just forgot. So, right. Yeah. So how can you set yourself apart from other developers?
Yeah, you did ask me that one.
All right, so that's so did I finish all the questions? I just lost track because I got very excited about continuous improvement questions. So Norma, you were the last person to answer this question. Is it correct? Right, cool. Thanks. Shiva is nodding, so that's great. Yeah, I just got into the answer, so I lost track of asking questions. So I would like to ask another question from you, Bronwyn. And what advice would you give to someone who wants to operate their own consulting business?
I guess firstly it would be to initially get some good accounting and legal advice to make sure your structure is set up correctly, because if you get that wrong, it can be cost a lot of money to change that sort of stuff. Learn to say no. That's a really hard lesson. If you keep saying yes to all the jobs that come along, you quickly will end up with no hours left in your day and burn out. But no doesn't mean no forever. Quite often, if the client wants something done and you tell them that you can't fit it in at the moment, but you've got space in 3 months, a lot of them will be happy to wait. Or get a really good network of people that you can throw work to, because karma comes back. You toss people some work, they'll be in the same situation and they can toss you some work back. I definitely recommend dating your clients. So if you've got a new client, start out slow. I try to do the smallest bit of work possible to see if we gel, if we get along, if I like them, they like me, and also to make sure that they pay me, to then work out if I want to make that a bigger relationship. Move on to the next step. Read the contract before you sign it, and don't be afraid to push back on things that you don't like in it. I have had numerous inchangeable, set in stone contracts changed. It's not impossible, and I'm not even a lawyer. And then finally, I guess, do what's best for you and your company at the time in your life. So for me, I like keeping my company small because I like to have the freedom to go on holidays, do volunteer work, spend time in the community, rather than spending my life chasing work. So make it what you want it to be at the time, and there's no right answer.
Thank you for sharing those advice. I think that those are very valuable. I really like the advice around, setting the business organization and the business chart, at the beginning. And also I really like the advice of knowing to say no. And the dating was brilliant. Never heard of it. That's a very good, that's a very good advice that, working with customer or your new clients with a small piece to get to know the customer. I think that for those who want to start their own business, those advices were brilliant. Thanks, Bronwen, for sharing that. Now I'm looking at you, Mandy. I would like to hear, what advice would you give to someone who wants to manage people and be successful at a large organization, given the West Media is a large organization?
That's a great question. I think, kind of as Norman said, not everyone is best suited to managing people. And so it's definitely something that you need to consider whether or not that's what you want to do. Managing people can take you away from doing technical stuff quite a bit. So if you love the tech side of things, it might not be the path that you go down, but I think a lot of the things that you can work on to become like a manager of people are skills that a lot of developers should work on anyway. It just depends on how far you take that before you make the choice, right? So for me, what I would recommend people do is don't try and control everything. I've seen a lot of managers try and control like delivery of things or how people do stuff, and it just gets you in a really stressful position. But also, like, the people that you're managing don't like that. Nobody likes to be micromanaged, so that's not great. What you want to do is learn how you can empower people in their work, and I guess help them so that they can help you manage them better. And this, I think, mentoring and sponsoring and supporting people is a good skill for all developers to learn. And the better that you are at that and the better you get at that, the better a manager you'll be as well. I think it's also important to be open and flexible to new ideas. Again, that's a great skill for developers to have as well, but as a manager, you often have to make a call on something or direct people in different ways. So you need to be able to identify when people aren't being flexible, when you're not being flexible, when you're not being open to the ideas that people are sharing. And I think you have to remember that everybody is different. So there's not like a one size fits all to management. You need to understand how different people do things and how to work with different kinds of people. And while I think that's a great skill for devs to have generally, because you'll kind of have a more harmonious experience, being really good at that will mean that you can be a really good manager to help people be the best that they can for themselves, but also for the business. And like Norman said, it's not just about the tech and the people that you manage. As a manager, you have to have a good understanding of the business requirements, I think, because that way you can direct people the people that you manage in a way that will help them provide value to the business so that you can get the best out of them, again, for themselves and for the business. So you kind of have to have a balance between understanding people, understanding the business, but also understanding the tech as well, right? Because you want to have a decent understanding of that in order to help people reach their potential as developers. And I think, as Bronwyn said, learning to say no is a really good thing for everybody. When you're a manager, people are always going to be asking you to do stuff, and you need to learn where your boundaries are for yourself and for the people that you manage as well. Because in my experience, developers are really bad at saying no, and they'll just like keep doing stuff, and that's how everybody burns out. And as a manager, you want to try and prevent people from falling into that trap. So I think from a large organization perspective, the other thing that's really important, find a mentor or find some resources that can help you. I've been in situations where I've had to deal with really tough situations, and there's no way I would have been able to do it without guidance from my mentor. I had an engineering manager from another company as my mentor, and she really helped me to work through those problems because, like I said, everyone is different, and learning to work in a unique scenario for each person can be really difficult if you've not had that experience before. So I really think if people want to go down that route, they should find someone who can help them and mentor them and assist them, someone you can talk to talk through those kinds of problems. Otherwise, I think you will find it very difficult and quite tough because it's not an experience that everybody has. Like Norman said, not everybody goes up the management track. So the more support that you can get as a manager, the more effective you can be for yourself and for the people that you're managing.
That was very good. That was very valuable advice, Mandy. And I like the idea of having a coach or mentor, even from different organization, so they can give you a very unbiased, feedback, and, you will be open to hear them because, they're just here to help you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think at the last but not least, Norman, I would like to hear what advice would you give to someone who wants to build their own startup?
Okay, so yeah, when you mentioned startup, my assumption is that someone that wants to build product and drive tractions this product. So it's yeah, it's about building product. My advice would be when you want to start, really focus on the problem solution fit first before anything else. So you need to really be able to define that there is a worthy problem to be solved. There are people facing these problems and need solutions, and you want to build something not complete, not very polished. It's just an MVP that you just want to ship it out so that people can use your product, and then you can measure whether your solution can really solve that problem before you moving on to the next iteration of the build, measure, learn. So ensure there is a problem solution fit. And most of the time, the tech founders or the technical people, they tend to pushing the technology to solve a problem rather than the other way around. Try to understand the problem and work backward to find which technology that can solve that problem. So I've seen many examples of people, we can use cloud computing, we can use AI, we can use machine learning, we can use blockchain, whatever, and try to push that, try to solve a particular problem that may or may not actually exist. So most of the time, this kind of approach may not really be successful. The product may not really be taking off. So the better approach is try to understand who faced the problem and what is the problem, and how we can bring people from this point A of having a problem to point B where they don't have a problem, and work backward to find which technology that can be used to bring these people from point A to point B. So I think that will be the better approach. And yeah, I think that will be. answer.
Thanks, Norman, for sharing. All right, so there I'm looking at the chat window, and I can see a few questions. So I start again. I try to change the order to spice it a little bit. So I start with Norman. So Norman, because you are in a position that you are hiring people, so I would like to hear if you want to hire at entry-level developers or the grad students, what qualities you are looking at those candidates to hire them for your company.
Okay. Yeah, even though you are a fresh grad that just graduate from uni, you may not really have a working experience as a professional, but during your uni days, maybe you're doing internship or other things, you may want to start building your portfolios of things that you actually build and ship. So I'm really looking for people that can showcase their portfolio of things that they have shipped, or maybe some works that you do with the open source community, GitHub, and so forth. So that's kind of like demonstrating of things that you actually built. And then after that, we have some set of tests and interviews where we're really focusing on your problem solving capabilities and also your curiosity, your passion and capabilities to learn new things fast. Because for me, for us, that is more important than the things that you already know, than all the things that you've learned in uni, than all the tech skill set, tools, framework, language, libraries, APIs, SDKs, and all these things that you already know. They are not as important as your capabilities to learn new things fast, because what you already know will be expired or obsolete in a couple of years. So your capabilities and passion to learn new things fast is more important. And we also look for people that create energy, like create that vibe of you know they're radiating energy. And as much as possible, we want to also hire people that can increase the existing average IQ of the team, like in a broader sense of average IQ means.
Interesting. I like the idea of the, looking into the qualities of capability to learn than the past knowledge or the past experience. And I think it's very valuable. The average IQ, didn't know about it. That's very interesting. And that's very interesting to think about it and dig a little bit more. I'm looking at Mandy because Mandy was, nodding when Norman was talking about the curiosity, the ability to learn. So I would like to point it to you. What would you see in the candidates if you want to hire them?
Yeah, so we basically look for similar things. So obviously, it's great to have some code that you can have a look at to kind of see how they approach things. But for a new developer getting into the industry, that is kind of less of a concern when we're actually interviewing developers, because any team that you join is going to have specific patterns that they want to follow and specific tech and how a style and how they approach things. So being able to demonstrate that you can adapt to different approaches and ideas, and that you're willing to give things a try and learn, they're all much better skills if you can demonstrate that. Because like for a new developer, you don't have years of built up experience. So what you need to be able to demonstrate is that even though you don't have that, you are going to make suggestions and have ideas and experiment with things and try things. And it's okay that if you don't get it right, but that you're just willing to give it a try, and you're willing to sort of take those experiences if you make a mistake and build from that and grow. One of the things I look for a lot in junior developers is their capacity to learn from their mistakes. So if you make a mistake, how do you handle that? Do you get defensive about it, or do you try and cover it up, or you're like, oh, I made a mistake, cool, no problem, we'll try this now to resolve this problem, and then the next time you don't kind of make the same mistake again, or you find out a different way to do it. I think people kind of even experienced developers get a little bit attached to this feeling of failing, but if you can you can let go of that, back to, I guess, the technical ego that Norman mentioned earlier, if you can kind of drop that ego like straight up when you're a junior dev, you'll like nail it through your technical career, because it's definitely the biggest thing that gets in the way for people to grow and develop and get into jobs. So yeah, similar things to Norman, but you know, try and share your stuff. I would also say it absolutely helps to have a network of people who can put your name forward. As bad as that might sound, you know, it does help to know people who can share you and put you forward and sponsor you and say, hey, check out this totally awesome new developer that I know who like loves stuff and experiments with things and is really excited about stuff. Like, that's going to go a long way. So get to know people.
That was very good advice, and thanks for sharing, Mandy. Bronwen, is there anything that you would like to add? How would you, if you would hire a intern or junior engineers, what qualities you are looking into them? Do you agree with Norman and Mandy, or do you look into the different qualities?
I've never not hired someone for not having a particular skill on the tick box list in terms of tech. I can teach tech. For me, it's, they want to learn, they're willing to learn, and they're open to different ideas is probably the main one.
That's very good. Thank you for sharing. All right, so we have only a few minutes, and I would like to see that if there anyone from the audience have a burning question to ask.
We do, as from Rob Farley. I'll read it out for you if you like.
All right, so I thought that Rob can unmute and, ask his questions.
Oh, go ahead. Rob, would you like to go off mute and ask your question?
Yeah, if you want. I mean, obviously, when you're building a team for a startup, the culture is really important. You want to make sure you're getting people who fit into the culture of the organization, who have similar perspectives and all that kind of thing. But I see a danger there that you might hire, clones of yourself when doing that. So my question is, how do you find it works to be able to make sure that you've got, diverse voices coming through in the organization, especially if you're worried about whether there's a cultural fit there. I mean, obviously you want them to be enthusiastic and so on, but sometimes that's going to cut out people that might have really valid points that you won't otherwise hear.
Who would like to take this question?
Probably no one, sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, no, I didn't say Norman. I said probably no one. Like, I get it's a tough question.
No, I think Norman, you go first, and then I will ask Mandy and Bronwen later.
Okay, thank you. Depends on the stage of your startup, whether it's just something that just started, bootstrap, pre-series A thing, or it's just a series B, series C, series D kind of startup. And sometimes in the very early days when you're building your startup, you don't even have that luxury to pick people that you want to work with your startup. You just end up with people that you can afford with the funding that you have, and you just want to build from there. So these things may become things of luxury to be able to really pick people that you want if it's a very early stage startup. But then again, you made a very good point about so that the people that you hire is not the mini version of yourself or your clones. So everyone is actually the same. Everyone is just like you. So yeah, go back to that the sessions of interviews, get to know them. And my take, the most important thing of the very early stage startup is that we may not want people who specialize on things or any particular technology. We want people that are willing and can do anything. So they can do backend, they can do front end, they can do mobile, they can do web, they can do database, because maybe you just have 2-3 people, 4 or 5 in your team, and it's not yet a stage where you can really have that specialized mobile iOS guy with Swift, Android guys with Kotlin, your backend, your ML specialist, and so forth. So in a very early stage startup, you also just want to build your MVP, where the goal is to validate whether you have that problem solution fit. And once you really confirm that, or maybe you successfully do some fundraising rounds if you're not bootstrapping, then you may want to adapt and evolve that architecture that you have and start to hire people with more specializations and so forth. So yeah, I think that is how I did it in the past. Yeah.
Thanks, Norma, for sharing. Mandy and Bronwen, is there anything that you would like to add?
Yeah. Oh,
Hey,
you go,
Mandy.
Bronwyn. you go first.
I guess when it comes to diversity, it's not just tech, it's different personalities, different voices, different opinions. And if you're specifically trying to increase those, I guess one of the important things is to make sure you have the right support structure and you're willing to hold that accountable as well, so that all these people that you bring together have the best chance of succeeding. And then if you have picked the wrong combination or someone can't gel, because it does happen, like some people just don't fit in the team, there has to be ways to easily like sort of separate that, because nothing, you can poison a team with the wrong team fit, I guess, is my learnings.
Thanks for sharing. Mandy, what about you?
Yeah, so just on the whole culture fit thing, I think that the term culture fit sometimes just gets replaced with, I want to hire someone that is like me. And so whoever does the hiring can end up just hiring people that they like. But I think culture within a team is a lot broader to that. Like, obviously you want people that align, to kind of your business values, I guess, as Rob was saying. But when it comes to actually hiring an individual person, they don't need to be like you to fit into your business values. Like, I guess from a team perspective, I don't know what it's like at startups, but from a business team perspective, having people with broader interests. So we have people on our team that are like, yeah, woo, I'm going to go and try out this brand new thing. It's really exciting. And they're like super hypey. But we've also got people on our team who are like, whoa, now let's think about reliability and security of this brand new spanking thing that you want to try out. And it's really important that you have a balance of those things. And so when you're deciding what your culture is, I guess, for your team, it can't just be like super enthusiastic, like visually expressive people. Like, they're great on a team, but you also need the people that are a bit more chill and a bit more like, hey, our culture is to deliver reliable, performant products. We want to use modern tech, and we want to do the right thing and create great interfaces for our users and deliver a great product, but you kind of need a balance. So I would say, like, it's really important when you're thinking about culture to not just think about, the like, hey, buddy, punch on the arm. You're thinking about how you're going to deliver that product and that project that you're all coming together to work on, and how you can, as Bronwyn was saying, create a team that is going to be able to deliver that together, and choose people who are able to do that with the most diverse set of thinking. Variety in people doesn't mean that that they're not going to align with the business and your values. So I think people kind of narrow the culture fit a little bit too much, and that's where we go wrong. Think a little bit more broadly about the skills that people are going to deliver into, like, the Ninja Turtles have a group of people with different skills. They're not all Michelangelos, because that wouldn't work. You need a Leonardo, you need a Raphael, and you need a Donatello. Otherwise, you're not going to get what you want from your ninja gang, right? So, have a diverse set of people with diverse set of skills and experiences. And you need an April O'Neil. Yeah, exactly. Adam, definitely need a Master Splinter.
Amongst the turtles, they are all turtles, but I agree.
sure.
I like
Except
Susan's
for
point
splinter.
about looking for the values side of culture. I mean, because at the end of the day, if you define culture as what you do, that should be driven by the values. And I think you can have values that promote diversity, so that everybody on the team is still looking to hear those voices. It doesn't just become, you know,
Exactly.
a bunch of clones if the culture is right. Yeah, if you can always adjust the culture to make sure you can hear the voices. Yeah,
Yeah, totally.
I like the points there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm cautious of time, and I know that Shiva is waving. So Shiva, what would you like? Would you like us to finish and then take the panelists and take the questions offline, or would you like to go ahead?
I would leave it like maybe we'll answer the last two questions very quickly if that's possible. I think one is a quick one for you, Mandy, and then a last one.
All right. Okay. So we go with the quick one with Mandy. So how did you go about looking for a mentor? Where you looking in for a mentor?
Yeah, so because I do a lot of public speaking and I've spoken at a lot of conferences, I was actually connected to my mentor through people that I had met at conferences. So she also has an online business where she provides mentoring for engineering managers in tech. So that's kind of how I came across her. So, you know, again, I said it a few times, but the more connections you have, the easier it is to find someone that that can, I guess, align with you and help you to be a good mentor. Because you need a mentor that's going to work with you. Like, not, you might need to go through a few before you find one that you can kind of mesh with.
Thanks for sharing. Another good. I think that's a very extroversial question. So let's see how it goes. So, do you think being a hands-on engineer has expiry date? So do you think that being an engineer has a finite life? So let's say that 5 or 10 years, or do you think that you can do engineering hands-on development for quite a long time? So who would like to answer this question first? Maybe I look at Bronwyn.
Sorry, my mute button's like 5 seconds behind my clicking. Yeah, 5-10 years, I wish I had a crystal ball. I really hope that I can still be on the tools, but I think as technologists, we have that power to create amazing things. And I hope there's always that balance that we have the ability to oversee that so that we, you know, stay on the right path and use tech for good rather than tech for evil. But I think there's definitely like awesome places for automation and stuff like that, which makes everyone's lives easier. And there will always be a place for humans to decide what the best ways forward are and to have input. And they may not necessarily be typing code on the keyboard anymore.
I see. So you might predict that the coding skills that would be, or coding jobs or coding work that would be a little bit less than what we do now, and there would be more around, DevOps, AI, and using the tools and services.
I kind of hope so, because like I keep saving this, solving the same problems over and over and over a project for the last 20 odd years. I hope that one day I won't have to do another log on screen.
I see. But to answer Jason's question, so Bronwyn, you have 20 years of experience. So to your answer, 5 or 10 years being hands-on engineer, it's not a finite. So I can, you have a living example in front of you that has the 20 years of experience. So what about you, Norman? Do you think that, it's the development job has a bracket of, years? So it's kind of like there is only 5 or 10 years you can be effective, and after 10 years you have to move on? Or do you think that can be continued?
That would depend on what actually you're doing, or on your career progressions as well. You can continue to become just like I said about the individual contributor career ladder. You can continue to become individual contributor that writing codes, making commits, pull requests to the code repo all the way, or but in different kind of career progressions, you may also work on stuff that you don't necessarily write codes that you commit and do pull requests to the repo anymore. Maybe you do some kind of illustrations or kind of coding. So that kind of work, not necessarily something that goes into the production, ship into the production. So yes, you're still going to spend some time writing codes, but not necessarily something that is shipped to the production.
I see. Thanks for sharing. What about you, Mandy? What do you think?
I think similar to what Bronwyn said, like I think for the next 10 years, developers probably still gonna have a place to code stuff, but it'll probably change, right? We want to be able to automate stuff and make things easier and more accessible to a wider range. There's nothing that I hate more than thinking that people can't build their own website easily. I think that's one of the things that always made the web amazing, that someone could just build something and share it. I mean, obviously there are downsides to that because people do bad stuff, but having that freedom to create, I think, is really valuable. So the easier and more accessible we can make that for people, I think would be great. But I don't think in 10 years there won't be any dev jobs. People still have to make the things that make the things. And I just think they'll probably be a bit different to what we do now. And I think that's great. You know, as tech people, we need to be able to embrace change and drive change in the direction that we think is best for society. And you know, I think that's exciting. It's different to how it was ago, and it can be different in another 20 years.
That's very exciting. Thanks for sharing, Mandy, and thanks for the audience that will stick for 10 more minutes. And thanks to Shiva and Nadia and all of our interesting, inspiring panelists that they give us their time to share their experience. I really appreciate it. It was very insightful and conversation, and I really enjoyed our chat. And hopefully the audience have the same feelings. Back to you, Shiva.
Thank you, everybody. I'll give everyone back like more time than we asked for. So thank you again to Az, to Norman, Bronwyn, and Mandy. For anyone who wants to share this call, the recording of this call, it will be uploaded to the Microsoft Reactor Sydney YouTube channel. Thank you once again. Stay safe, everybody, and have a lovely weekend in the next 2 days. See ya.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Terima kasih.